Oh, hello. Welcome to Tales of the Alleghenies. I'm your host, Richard Sturtz. Tales of the Alleghenies will take you over the threshold of time, evoking your imagination. Come on, let's get started. Welcome to episode 2, Take the Money and Run. Takes us back to the year 1816 to 1820 at Stoystown, Pennsylvania and the surrounding area. Highwayman. No, not Department of Transportation workers. Highwayman was a term used many years ago to describe people that made their living robbing stagecoaches, payrolls, and travelers along desolate stretches of early highways. While pointing a gun in your direction, robbers were often known to say, "Stand and deliver," meaning to step off or out of your conveyance and hand over your money and valuables. David Lewis, his name would soon become notoriously synonymous with outlaw, robber, counterfeiter, and a long list of aliases. His father died when he was just a young boy, leaving his family somewhat destitute. David would eventually enlist in the army and desert. He was tried by a court-martial and was sentenced to death. His sentence was commuted to imprisonment at the Carlisle Army Barracks. He managed to escape and soon found companionship with lawless gangs and counterfeiters. The turn of the 19th century opened a larger migration of settlers west on the Pennsylvania Road, what would eventually become known as the Lincoln Highway and later US Route 30. Sections of the road were developed by incorporated turnpike companies. I'm at the Compass Inn Museum in Locklandtown, Pennsylvania, operated by the Ligonier Valley Historical Society. The inn, outbuildings, and artifacts are an excellent interpretation of life in the 18th and 19th century. I'd like to thank the museum for allowing me to film part of my program here today. I'm standing beside a representation of an early Eastern stagecoach. By 1804, a stage line was running from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh. Drovers from western counties were driving livestock to eastern markets and returning with gold and silver. Merchants from the west traveled to Philadelphia and other eastern cities with gold and silver to buy merchandise for their emporiums. A time before bank transfers of money were not available to individuals. Stages received their name because your journey or trip was done in stages. These steep mountainous roads and rutted conditions were very difficult on horses and passengers. Horses had to be replaced more often, and the traveler needed to refresh themselves for their journey. The time was right for outlaw gangs to strike. Lewis worked with various outlaws during his short career. Finally, he had his own gang consisting of Jimmy Hansen and John Conley. Stoystown looks nothing like it did in the year 1820. But for a short time, according to the editor of the Somerset Herald newspaper, David Lewis found this bustling turnpike town of Stoystown, Pennsylvania, a place for his gang to refresh and gather information. The town had a stage stop, and many stage drivers actually lived there. Buying a few drinks at the local inn for the stage drivers and for the local folks in town could loosen their tongues about the movement of the people with money. An unnamed wealthy traveler was staying the night at an inn in the valley east of Stoystown, probably what is now Cantner. In the morning, he continued his journey on horseback a short distance when he saw a man up ahead staggering and appeared to be drunk. Coming near to the man, he could see his clothes and face were dirty and bleeding about his face as if he was in a fight. The drunken man attempted to run ahead of the traveler, as if not wanting to be questioned about his improper look and behavior. The drunk suddenly stumbled and fell on the dirt road motionless. The traveler dismounted and went to the aid of the poor man.
Good Lord, man, are you all right?
In an attempt to raise and comfort him, the traveler found himself slugged and knocked senseless. Jumping up, David Lewis seized the traveler's full saddlebags, and with an exultant shout of a mirthless mockery of a demon, he departed the bewildered traveler. I only found one account of Lewis robbing a stagecoach. That is not to say there wasn't more. This story was handed down by old-timers. The holdup was to have taken place along the old Glade Pike, or present-day Route 31 in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, near the White Horse Tavern. Norman Lambert, a man I referred to in episode 1, remembers being told a story by his great-grandfather, John Lambert. John was visiting his neighboring farmer, Michael Grove, located on the hill that is now the NPS Flight 93 Memorial, located along Skyline Drive in Stony Creek Township, Somerset County, Pennsylvania. That's when they saw David Lewis wearing a red coat riding down this hill past them. Norman was born many years after Lewis's death, but his parents used the old boogeyman threat. If you're not good, Lewis will get you. The gang was captured several times and put behind bars, but Lewis would always find a way out. In 1816, Lewis escaped from the Bedford County Jail. Sheriff Thomas Moore offered a $300 reward for his capture. The sheriff described Lewis as 6 feet tall, slim, straight and well-made, ruddy complexion, large sandy whiskers, sandy or yellow hair, cut in the fashion, genteel in his appearance, easy in his gait, polite in his manner. His charm and influencing powers came to an end, June of 1820. A posse surrounded Lewis and Conley and offered them to surrender. He refused to surrender. Gunfire ensued. Conley was mortally wounded, but history does not agree on where, either in the hip or stomach, and died that night. Lewis had a shattered arm, which he would not allow the doctors to amputate. He would linger a slow, painful death of gangrene poisoning. Nearly a month later, July 13, 1820, at the age of 30, Lewis died in the Bellefonte Jail, Center County, Pennsylvania, the only jail he never escaped from. The Pennsylvania Republican newspaper of York, Pennsylvania, on July 26, 1820, wrote, "David Lewis for the last time." Like most people, they were relieved that this notorious bandit would never rob again. The paper would go on to say, "Here we see that the vengeance of offended justice must sooner or later fall upon the head of the guilty. He was the terror of mountainous parts of Pennsylvania, and even when apprehended, always contrived some means of escape. But in his present prison house, the grave, where neither bolts nor bars, but the strong hand of death holds him in detention, he is secure." What did Lewis do with all the gold and silver he stole? Some accounts say that it was a type of Robin Hood, giving to the poor. Perhaps, but this could be more idealized view of reality. There are some old newspaper accounts of people unearthing treasures in different parts of the state and contributing it to Lewis. The jailer said Lewis never confessed to where his loot was stashed. Maybe Lewis told his wife and she retrieved it. I'm standing at a rock outcropping in Stony Creek Township, Somerset County, Pennsylvania, that has long been known as Lewis Rocks. The formation is only a stone throw away from where Lewis traveled on the old turnpike. There are many of these so-called Lewis Rocks and caves across the state. Here again, I think romantic tales mixed with reality. This stone outcropping, regardless if Lewis was here or not, was a scene of determined gold seekers during the Great Depression. Many years ago, I talked with some local men who were teenagers at the time of this event in 1932. They remember unemployed men living in tents on the site, digging day after day and blasting rocks from Sandstone Cave until their hopes of finding a fortune in gold were dashed by exhaustion. I'm standing on top of a stone rubble pile that was blasted from the hole behind me. This was originally part of a sandstone cave, and in 1932 the men that were encamped here looking for Lewis's gold blasted most of this out of here, and you can see the cavity in here where all this rubble was piled out of. A few years ago, a man was metal detecting this site and unearthed the mining picks, shovels, and bars of these early gold seekers. He too was left holding an empty poke, except for these tools. Fools for gold, every generation has them. I think we all have a little urge once in a while that we may get lucky. But where is Lewis's gold? It must be out there somewhere, because he didn't spend it all in his short career as a highwayman. Wow, a silver coin.
Okay, hand it over.
Oh, what's the chances of that?
What else
Okay,
you got?
all right, okay.
That it?
That's it.
Okay.
No, I didn't actually find a silver coin. It was a plant, so don't come rushing out here with your metal detectors and think you're going to find Lewis's silver or gold. There's so much we don't know about David Lewis, and what we do know, sorting facts from fiction can be a daunting task. After 200 years of spinning legends, many articles and pamphlets have been written over the years, and one of the best sources will bear more truth are the period newspapers, mainly from 1816 to 1820. There are many numerous newspaper accounts from papers across Pennsylvania that are available online to research Lewis's exploits. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Tales of the Alleghenies.